I'm Julie Legg, author of The Missing Piece and diagnosed with ADHD at 52. Welcome to ADH Difference. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Ashley Cairns, CEO and Director of A Change for Better. We discuss their organisation and their online ADHD assessment process, their low wait times, the pathway from seeing a psychologist through to a psychiatrist, if necessary, and also the possibility for subsidisation if the client meets a certain criteria. Good morning, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Julie. Good morning.
Good morning. So you're Director and CEO of A Change for Better. Can you tell us all about that?
Sure, absolutely. So, A Change for Better is a mental health organization dedicated to helping mental health professionals connect with available clients throughout New Zealand. We started that venture in 2019, late 2019, early 2020, really dedicated to the professional side. We saw the opportunity to do charity, to do good. And so in January of 2022, I can't believe that we're almost 2 years old now. We started the charitable side, the ACFB fund, ACFB standing for A Change for Better. And through that, we've been able to provide subsidized mental health assessments, including for ADHD and autism, as well as counseling. And we've got some really exciting services that we're planning for 2025. So I guess watch this space.
That's incredible. And given the extended wait times for many undiagnosed adults and children alike looking for assessment in New Zealand, it's wonderful that, I believe you've got quite some low waiting times,
Yes.
and also the potential for subsidy or part subsidy. That is music to many ears, I'm sure. Can you tell me a little about how the fund side of things was set up and how you're able to offer the subsidy?
Absolutely. So the fund was set up, like I said, in 2023, and actually our first, or 2022. Again, I cannot believe we're going to be 2 years old. It seems like a dream. We really launched trying to provide counseling. And we found it quite difficult financially to provide a subsidized counseling model with the people that we had available to us that are providing this service. So in that kind of brainstorming kind of venture, Dr. Amy Marshall and I came up with this idea to do ADHD autism assessments. She is a recognized expert in the field. She's written many books on how to do autism and ADHD assessments very effectively. And so we came up with this model that made the psychologist really only doing psychology. So a lot of where the cost comes in and a lot of where the wait times comes in is that the clinical psychologist or whatever psychologist is doing it is doing all the admin, the back and forth with the client, the discovering of the medical records and getting school records and all of this stuff. And so maybe 60% of their time is being spent on admin instead of clinical stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the cost keeps going up. So that's why we have such a bottleneck. So we got together with my husband, Joe, who is a cybersecurity specialist for Visa, quite a techie kind of person. And we said, where can we get rid of admin? Where can we get rid of overhead? How can we make this process more efficient, more streamlined? And between Amy, Joe, and myself, we came up with the model that you'll see on our website. And so now when you come into the program, you're given a fee, and that fee is based on your household income. So we expect those who can afford to pay to help to subsidize for those that can't afford to pay. So we get quite a broad mix of people that do come through the service. A lot of them, I'd probably say about 40% are on the lower end because, again, this is a charity and these are the people we're trying to support anyway. And so once you get that fee and accept that fee, we offer a range of different ways that you can pay this. And this is different than other places in the industry too. So we allow interest-free payment plans as little as $10 a week. So being ADHD myself, I know if you ask me to spend $1,000, to save that $1,000, I might spend $2,000 or $3,000 in the process, trying to put it into the account and all the stress and anxiety that comes with that. So we wanted to provide that different approach by allowing interest-free flexible payment plans. So say this week you've got $10. Great. Say next week you want to do $30 because you got to save an extra 20. Good, go for it. Say you want to pay it off, half of it off this week and then do the rest of it over like small payments. Great, fine. We're happy with any arrangement. The situation is that they need to pay 50% though to get those questionnaires. And here's a difference that we do to the industry as well, is that we do what's called asynchronous assessment.
Okay.
So asynchronous assessment is giving the client all of the questionnaires and allowing them to do that in their own time, in their own space, as they feel ready for it, versus the psychologist reading out each question, waiting for the response, and putting that in.
I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but that is brilliant. And I think when I was assessed for ADHD, I was so stressed leading up to that point because I was, what if I didn't say something really important? What if I went off on a tangent and it didn't quite answer the question? I wanted to tell it like it is, but my mind takes time to process things. So I can completely understand how being given that information in advance would be a wonderful opportunity to really consider all aspects of your life, not just a knee-jerk reaction in a very stressed environment. Wonderful. Carry on.
Yes. And actually that's what the research shows as well, is like specifically for ADHD and autism, that when people have the ability to think about what they want and they're not feeling pressured, they're more forthcoming, they're more honest, they're more able to connect the dots, and we have more accurate diagnoses because of it. So yes, 100% what you just said.
Also, too, with you specialize in autism and or ADHD, and often there are combined pairing, aren't they? And your psychologists are able to look at a range of disorders, dyspraxia, dyslexia, the rest. Yeah. So it's,
Well, no, sorry, not dyslexia, dyspraxia. So we do ADHD, autism. The thing about dyslexia and dyspraxia is that, and dyscalculia and whatnot, is that there isn't an agreed upon way to assess for that. So each psychologist does that differently. And we found that those ones would be best to be done in person.
Right.
So we're focusing on anything that can be done online more efficiently. So we saw ADHD and autism as the best way to go from there. And next year, we're going to be offering general mental health assessments as well. So like, that you don't have a neurodiversity, but you've got a lot of questions about what's going on in your head. We want to be able to provide quite a broad answer for you. And going back to that asynchronous assessment, the other benefit of that is that we can send more assessments to you for you to do in less time for us. So when you go to another psychologist, they might run 2 or 3 sorts of tests on you and then say, yep, you have it, or no, you don't. We run a minimum, I think, of 10 different tests And that all depends too on what you're coming in for. If you're coming in for both ADHD and autism, we're running a full mental health screen, a trauma screen, mood disorder screen. We're doing all the autism assessments, plus sensory assessments, plus the ADHD assessments, because our psychologists aren't running it with you simultaneously. You're doing it in your own time. It doesn't cause us more time, which also then the onflow of that is that our reports are more comprehensive than anybody else in the industry. I haven't seen a report less than 20 pages.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the flow on effect of that is that one of the new services we're going to be offering, because this psychologist knows you so well by the end of this process. So once those questionnaires come in, you do get in front of the psychologist. It's just like we're doing right now. It would be like over Meet or over Zoom. And after that, they then go back and make that big giant report. And that's where they do their case formulation as well, which is something that not everybody does. And then from there, we'd like to start doing treatment planning. So
excellent. Ashley, if we could just backtrack a little with regards to, so it's all online.
Fully.
Therefore, it's fully accessible nationwide throughout New Zealand.
Correct.
Brilliant.
Yes.
What are the current waiting times that people can expect?
So today is the 7th of October. If you were to pay today and get all those questionnaires done today, we are booking for about the end of November. So about 6-8 weeks at the moment out, with the report expected probably after Christmas break. Our staff members are going to be taking some time off. It's been a very busy year.
I bet.
Yeah, so we've been telling everybody expect your reports in the beginning of New Year at this point.
Excellent. And what type of clients, where on their journey are they when they contact you? Are they confused? They may resonate with a few traits and want to know, or have they already done some online self questionnaires and think they're further down the track? Where do they sit?
Yeah. All ranges. I get a lot of parents. So probably 80% of the work that we do is with adults. A lot of them are parents whose child has been diagnosed, and then they realize, oh, while I was filling out the questionnaires for them, I was like, oh yeah, but I do that too. Oh yeah, but I do that too. And it was a big eye opener for them. For some people, we get a lot of from the HIPs, the health improvement practitioners across the country. We're seeing a lot from them. A lot of rural. Because they just can't find any other solution. We usually get people who've been searching for a while as well and haven't been able to find something that doesn't have a 2-year plus wait list and cost $3,000. So we try to be, just accessible as much as possible.
That's absolutely wonderful. Now, back to where we were talking about treatment and post-diagnosis. So you say you also offer counselling sessions as well?
We're going to be in the new year. So this is a big couple months for transition. We've recently been awarded the ACC Sensitive Claims Tender Contract. So we will be able to provide free counseling to anybody who has experienced sexual harm. Through our network of counselors. We're limited to certain regions at the moment and certain practitioners. However, we hope to have proven ourselves with ACC by the beginning of the year to allow us to expand that contract further.
Wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful. In addition to that, we will be doing general counseling and neurodiversity coaching as well.
Wonderful. And I think for me, I did so much research around the time of my diagnosis and post-diagnosis, but I've always considered it, the real journey actually begins on diagnosis. There's so much to unpack and so many things to work on, tools to use and adapt and strategies and the whole lot. So it is quite exciting. Now you have psychologists
Yep.
Now, psychologists won't be able to prescribe medication for ADHD.
Correct.
Can you talk me through the pathway? Um, what if they feel at that point, post-diagnosis, that medication
Mm.
is more likely to be their,
Yep.
part of their pathway? Can you
Yeah.
talk me through how that would work?
Yep. So for different regions, it has there are different requirements. So here in Canterbury, there is a special program for those that are severely impacted by their ADHD, where they can go to their GP with our report. The GP sends it off to the hospital, and the hospital then signs off on that special authority number, and gives medication recommendations. And they never see that psychiatrist. It's just done through the system. But throughout different regions, we find that there is not a program like that yet. I don't know if there is maybe something in the making. If there isn't, here's the plea, because this has been really a game changer here, at least in Canterbury, for a significant number of people. So for anybody outside of Canterbury, they do need to find a psychiatrist. Our recommended psychiatry place is the Nelson Clinic. So when we were first developing our program, we worked alongside them and their psychologist and their psychiatrist to develop reports that were thorough, in-depth, that would get across the line from many different government organizations. They really mentored us a lot. We've since even expanded on that, on the reports, but they will accept our reports to their psychiatry program. We are the only organization that we know of that they will let bypass their own assessment service. So we're quite lucky, because otherwise it would be like $700 for them for the psychology part, and then another X amount for their psychiatry part.
Wow, that's fabulous. And because your reporting is so comprehensive,
Correct.
it's wonderful that you had brainstormed before rolling it out, so you know
Mm.
that that's the case. Oh, well, that must have some very positive implications when it comes to the psychiatrist side of things, cutting down on time, hours spent in assessment. That that would
Correct.
that would be quite interesting. Wow.
Yes.
And I guess at the beginning of the process again, there will be those that don't understand whether, because you don't know if medication's going to be right for you, or if there are other tools in the
Mhm.
toolbox that can be
Yeah.
used, or whether even medication is going to suit you. And I know for many people with some underlying health issues, some medical issues,
Yeah.
that may not be the part of the journey for them.
Correct.
Wonderful. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well,
No
and
one.
this is also why we're offering the treatment plan service. So
Yes,
once we do the diagnosis, it's like what to do from here. So
yes.
you're right, medication one might be one part of that journey, but the other part is like behavior change and acknowledgement and coming to grips with that grief. We work with a lot of adults, and the grief of feeling like, why did no one see this? Why did I have to wait this long to have this answer? So that has ramifications. And so our treatment plan, then we can hand over to our counseling team. So what we're trying to do is a wraparound service. The other service I forgot to mention before is that we're going to start support groups as well. So you've just been diagnosed. It's what do I do from here? And they're customized, tailored support groups, both to parents and to the individual.
That sounds perfect. It really does. And I understand, for me, ADHD diagnosis was quite validating. I'd wrapped my head around the whole concept. Um, and I was relieved, to be honest.
Mm.
But for those women that I interviewed for the missing piece, certainly that wasn't always the case, and it may have come to that
Mm.
after time. But some were still on that journey, very angry. Yes, not for being picked up, but also grief as to what could have been. How could
Exactly.
have my life been? And being diagnosed as an adult, you've got a lifetime of undiagnosed chaos in many cases. And middle age to discover that your youth, could have been very, very different, is hard for some people to cope with. So I love the idea of a wraparound service, and that post-diagnosis, it's not you're left to your own devices, and that
Right.
there is help out there for you. Can you talk about your team? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about the team.
Well, we're incredibly lucky. So our co-founder, Dr. Amy Marshall, is a clinical psychologist currently located in South Dakota, which is a very interesting arrangement, but she is licensed here in New Zealand. Pre-COVID, she had a job offer here. However, the borders had closed by the time she was able to move over, and it just didn't work out. So
Mm.
she wanted to keep those connections and keep her license going. So this was a great opportunity for her, and we're very lucky. Our second clinical director is Dr. Natalie Pert. She is a graduate of Auckland University, I believe, and has extensive experience working in this field. She's been amazing. Her ideas. So Amy and I launched with the assessments, just the diagnosis side, and Natalie's really picked up the rest of the stuff, the rest of the services, and really made it her own. So I'm really excited to see what comes of that. Then we have two educational psychologists, Kate Nitschke and Kia Naidu. Kia works for MOE full-time and moonlights for us nights and weekends to try to help with the backlog. And Kate has extensive experience and is located in Martin, just near Wanganui, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Yep. And then we have, sorry.
I was just going to ask, can you tell me what an educational psychologist does as opposed to a clinical psychologist? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So our educational psychologists focus more on functionality and assessment, like strict assessments for ADHD, autism, versus a clinical psychologist that is also looking at more mental health stuff, personality disorders, trauma, depression, anxiety, mood stuff, that kind of stuff. So we use a psychologist approach in this. So when somebody comes in, they're first assigned to clinical support, and a clinical support person is somebody with good clinical knowledge of the questionnaires that you're doing and the process itself. They're able to hold you through the process, kind of like a case manager, over to the psychologist. Then the psychologist, depending upon how complex the person is, and I hate to use the word complex, but I mean, there are straightforward cases, and then there are ones that take a lot more time, and we need to have the right person looking at the right people. So their job is to then assign the right psychologist to the right person. So if it's more straightforward, if it's younger people as well, it tends to go to our educational psychs. If there's that level of trauma or other things going on, we tend to send that to the clinical psych. We've also recently taken on a couple general psychs because they do kind of do a little bit of everything. They're kind of a jack of all trades and a master of none. So we tend to give them clinical support kind of roles as well as basic assessment as well.
Well, the whole package sounds wonderful, and I look forward very much to airing this episode, because I think so many people are looking for solutions. And as you said, rural folk, and
Yeah.
those financially struggling.
Mhm.
I think an ADHD assessment and potential diagnosis should be accessible to all. And I think location and finance, it's absolute crying shame that they don't get the same care and attention as everyone else in more urban
Mhm.
areas. So it's what a wonderful organisation. Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today, and
You're
all
very
about a
welcome.
change for better. And I look forward to airing this podcast very shortly in the
Awesome.
ADHD Awareness Month of October.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for having me and for helping us as a new organization to be seen and be heard. We're here to help people, and it's great to have people like you helping to connect us with the right audience. Thank you.
Thank you.